Hey everyone, Pam here. I want to do a little flip through of uh, my very first art journal, that my first attempt at an art journal. It was something I started in 2013, and I, for all the craft supplies I buy, I just did not want to buy. I was at a point where I did not want to buy yet another thing, especially with something new that I was starting. So I used this fabric, and this was from a roll. When I first bought the the roll of fabric, I bought it at a church sale, and it was so big I couldn't even get my hands all the way around it. And it was just wonderful. I used it for so many different things, pattern pieces instead of muslin, and used it even to line the bottom of a bed liner for my neighbor, and made some you just use it for so many different things. But then I started painting on it, and I just fell in love with the way that it takes paint. So I made this. um, I tore the fabric and then frayed the edges, and then sewed them in the middle, and then used my crocodile to poke some holes in here. So, I mean, like I said, that was my first attempt, and uh, and I love the frayed edges. So anyway, I mean, it's just got a wonderful hand. It's a polish, I think it's polished cotton, um, but I just love this stuff. It's from the 80s, I believe, and anyway, so wish I had more of this. Now it's not going to all fit in the frame, but and then I left for the cover. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do on the cover, so I left that blank. But this one here was my first page, and I mean, you can see even with gesso, many layers of paint. I've got embossing with glitters, and I mean, it just still is very nice and supple. The gesso that I used that stays nice and supple like this is the oh, here we go. De La Roni, yeah, De La Roni acrylic gesso, and I really like this for working on the fabric. For me, it was just, it's really nice. I did use a Liquitex later in the journal, and so there's quite a bit of difference in the texture, but for working on the fabric, I really like the De La Roni. And so anyway, this one was my very first page, and I was so happy with it. I thought it turned out really pretty. It was a spring snow. It was dated March 23rd, 2013, and it just come over from my cousin's house. So I did a little bit of journaling on the outer edge, and the way I got this shape was I used freezer paper and cut out, and I cut out several the same, but cut out the sheet, and then you can take the shiny side of the freezer paper and iron it onto the fabric, and then it becomes a mask. And as you can see, I mean, it works really well. And then I save the center pieces, so if I were to want to do things on the outer part of this, I could. So and I'm glad I still have these little templates for future pages if I want to. So there was that page. The second page was my big heartbreak, and so just on my second attempt, I totally ruined this. This was one of the best pieces of work I feel like I had ever done. I was so happy with it. I had this gorgeous fish. I had drawn a fish, and she had a big eye, great big huge lips, um, curled fin. She was gorgeous, and I didn't want to write on her because I was just too intimidated to write. And then as I was working on the on another page and I ironed, I failed to put wax paper or parchment paper in between these, and I melted them together. And when I realized it, I pulled them apart, and it was just ruined. It was so sad. I lesson learned on this, the biggest lesson learned, I never even got a photograph of it. And that's a big heartbreak for me. But anyway, so I was so upset, so mad at myself that I had no qualms. All of this was just my anger writing about the whole experience. So there, it just unleashed that whole intimidation about about writing in this journal. And see, it says now it's gone. Oh my gosh, it was just so sad. But and then I did. This was using that really thick, real thick. It's by Ranger. It's an embossing powder, and it gets really thick. And so I kind of wanted it to have that look of almost, even though you see the chopsticks, I don't know, I like the effect. I like the way that turned out. I did kind of a ghost tracing of where that original fish was. I just so missed that. I did such a beautiful job on her and then ruined it. But and then this here is some washi tape that I made. It was the first time I ever made washi tape, just using tissue paper. And I really liked the way that turned out, and then just did some writing on the outside. But yeah, so that one again, you know, I used the same just cut out. Now that I have this cut out, I can just use that as my pattern for all future pages that I want to do that way. I think that's probably why I have those that are not used. And then on this, I did 2 separate pages. What I really like about this, I think that was the Viva. Oh, you rub this on, it's a metallic. Oh my goodness, I so love that. It just turned out so pretty. And then these were acrylic paints, different layers of acrylic paints where I was just scraping them. And this has some depth. I can see the rubber stamping that went on, and yeah, I love the way that feels. It's silky almost. It just really feels wonderful. So, and this was all just handwritten. I still do a lot of handwriting, and I'm not too wild about it, but I'm in the beginner stages, you know, so that's where I was at. And then this has a lot of layers and interest. I want some words in here, but I just don't know what I want to say. And then this is gessoed on the outside, so I could do something else if I want to. And then this one was just all doodle, paint, Sharpie markers, highlighters. But the thing about this piece is the magic of it. This was done in 2013, and at that time I knew I wanted to look for start, you know, getting ready for the home buying, to buy a house, and it was my first ever house. And I started looking for houses in January of 2014, and I actually bought my first house and closed on it in June of 2014. And I got what I drew, which is amazing. And I didn't even realize this until later when I found this book, and I looked at this and I was like, oh my gosh, I have a house with the same orientation, the doors facing outwards, two front doors, my two front doors. I have two chimneys, and in the backyard there is a structure in the back, and the door opens with the same orientation. The big driveway here is actually in front of the house. It's a 3-car driveway, and I mean, it just really blew my mind that everything, I drew this, and I got what I drew. Really, really magical. So, and then I painted the living room. And again, this is before I had found this sheet. I had forgotten about it. And I had painted the living room lime green and dark green. And, the bedrooms are purple. And my studio is yellow. And the outside structure is yellow as well. So it just really blew me away. We have so much power to create, and so this one came to fruition. I had thought it was kind of ugly actually, and now I just see the beauty and the magic. It's pretty amazing. So this page center part needs to be done, but I love the outer. It's not wild about this color gray, but this is fun. It's fun for something. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but I just really like the outer background. Again, it reminds me of a spring snow, so maybe this coming spring I'll be inspired to do something in the center. And then this is just hideously ugly. I'll probably gesso over this. Maybe not. I don't know. Ugly still is part of the process. But I wanted to do an ostrich. And the ostrich kind of represents, I go through these phases where I go kind of disengage socially and stick my head in the sand. And so I always think of an ostrich pulling its head out of the sand, so to speak. I don't think they really do that, but yeah, this is, but I wanted to do, I was trying a technique where you use crayon and then you melt it, and really super ugly. But this is where I was using the gesso, the Liquitex gesso, which is a lot thicker and stiffer. It's very stiff by comparison to the other pages. And it does give it more of a canvas feel, but you do lose that supple hand. And it could be too, because I mean, here it's getting pretty thick, and this is still with the Daler-Rowney. But anyway, so I just wanted to share. It wasn't a whole lot, but I just wanted to share this with you, and it's all part of the process. So thanks so much for taking a look. I hope you liked it, and all right, more to come. Thanks so much. Bye.